welcome to episode 79 of New Hampshire Knits, a knitting podcast coming to you from the gorgeous state of New Hampshire, where our state motto is knit free or die. Today is Friday, May 11th, and I'm your host, Corinne Clare. This episode is sponsored by the WoollyThistle.com. The Woolly Thistle brings your favourite yarns from across the pond and makes them easily accessible in North America. At thewoollythistle.com, you will find the best in British yarns, such as Blacker Yarns, John Arbon, West Yorkshire Spinners, the Woolly Mammoth, and Jameson and Smith, to name a few. You will also find yarns from Scandinavia, including Lettlopi, Rauma, Tuku Wool, and soon Ullcentrum will be joining us from Sweden. At the Woolly Thistle, we encourage woolly wanderlust, and we share information about where the wool was grown and milled. We specialise in finding yarn made at the source, whether that be on wild Scottish islands or in the Devon countryside or in the mountains of Wales. We find it and share it with you. With excellent customer service and beautiful yarns to peruse, you will love shopping at thewoollythistle.com. And that's 2 L's in woolly. Let the Woolly Thistle do the international shipping so you don't have to. Well, hello, listeners. Thank you for coming back and tuning in again. And if you're new to the podcast, you're very welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, thank you for everybody who sent me an email or a comment here or there about my name. I know I was confusing some of you, wasn't I? So I hope that I've helped clear that up. And my name is Corinne. And I don't even say it the way I used to say it growing up because I can't roll my R's quite as much as I used to. But, you know, you can still call me Claire if that's how you know me, that's fine. But I'll be going by either Corinne or Corinne Clare when I'm signing off on stuff. We just had our winter finish and it turned around and we had 86-degree days for a couple of days. It was ridiculous. In fact, that first day of 86 degrees, we had snow on the ground here at our house. It was too quick a switch, and actually the last few days have been much more seasonally appropriate, so I'm happy about that, and hopefully I can still get a few more sweaters and shawl wearing in over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? This episode includes Off the Needles, On the Needles. I have a little bit of audio for you from the island of Fair Isle up there in Shetland. I've got the Woolly Thistle update and then we'll wrap it up. It really should be quite a quick show this week, so let's get started. Off the needles, I have nothing. Again, last time I think I had a couple of things finished, and I think I'm getting close to maybe having some more stuff finished, maybe for next time. But right now I am in between and nothing is off the needles, so note for that. On the needles, I'm still knitting my Riddari or Riddari by Veris Jonsdottir, or probably Jonsdottir. She's an Icelandic designer. And yeah, the Riddari is a very popular men's sweater and I'm knitting it for Jay. I can't quite remember whether it's a US 7. I think I'm knitting this on a US 7. And I'm using Lettlopi, which is what the pattern calls for. And I'm really enjoying knitting it. It knits up so quickly. I knit the whole body from just above the colour work right up to where I'm joining the sleeves in one day. And he's not a small guy. So that was crazy. I think I'd just been feeling like I need to knit and I've been working hard. So one day I just took off and I knitted all day. Probably not good for me, but there you go. Good for my mind and good for the sweater. So I'm at the point now where I can join the sleeves to the body and do that colour work. I don't know if you remember me telling you that when I knitted the sleeves first, I screwed up the colour work on the cuff because I'd printed the pattern off and didn't know it, but the printer cut off the bottom half of the colour work chart. So always check that what you print is what you intended. And so the colour work cuff is different than what it should be. So when I did the colour work on the waistband for the sweater, I did it per the proper colour work chart, which was the whole thing. And now I'm second guessing myself whether I should have done that because it looks different from the sleeve cuff, and maybe I should have done what I did on the sleeve cuff on the waistband so that it was all the same. I wouldn't change it just for that. I think we would I don't know that Jay would even notice if I didn't tell him. But I also had an epiphany. I was on Instagram and I saw Mary Jane Mucklestone posted a quick video of how she knits colourwork left-handed. I'm a two-handed colourwork person, and I've often tried to knit it just with my left hand controlling both strands of yarn, but I could never quite figure it out. But in Mary Jane's video, very quick video on her feed, so go check this out, but she shows how she uses her middle finger to keep those two strands separated, and she did it in a way that I was like, I get it now. And so I was doing that, and I was able to knit the whole waistband colourwork in just left-handed knitting, so I was really pleased with myself, and I think I kept the tension okay as well. However, I realized that once I got knitting just stockinette going up the body, I realised that I was quite tight. I wasn't puckering the colourwork, but my tension was still much tighter than I wanted it to be. So with the tight waistband, which I'm sure Jay's not going for, along with the mess up of the colourwork, in terms of doing the colourwork pattern correctly on the waistband, but it doesn't match the cuffs, I may well just cut that off and knit it down. So, put the stitches on the needle and then knit backwards basically to finish the cuff and the ribbing, and do it in such a way that the colours match the cuff. All right, that was a lot of explanation, but hopefully I didn't lose you. So yeah, I'm ready to join that, and I'm not sure if I'll set that aside now, because there's absolutely no point in finishing an Icelandic sweater as we're coming into summer. So, and I don't think it'll take too long to finish the colour work. So maybe I will just power through that and get it done, and then it's done for when the weather cools down after the summer. Or maybe I'll set it aside. I haven't decided. And I'm still knitting my Tidal sweater, which is a lovely vanilla kind of boxy sweater layering piece. It's a short piece, so you'd wear a long shirt under it, and you can wear long sleeves because they're sort of 3/4 length sleeves. And this is my car knitting right now, and I'm halfway down a sleeve. So I've just got a little bit more of one sleeve to do, and then the other one, and that'll be done. So I'm looking forward to that being done. I think that's a nice evening piece if it's still cool enough outside before the summer heat really hits us. And then I cast on the Humblebee Socks by Sarah Pomegranate. These are lovely socks, and I am excited to be knitting them. And I'm knitting them using blacker mohair, which is really nice to knit with. I'm enjoying that, and I'm doing it in the Blissland, which is the dusky pink. So that's all that's on the needles. I was swatching. I wanted to knit something out of the linen Blacker Lioness, but I'm still looking for a pattern that I want to knit with that. And then I'm also considering jumping on the Iris Cal bandwagon. Fibertown Emily and Sarah Pomegranate of Yarns at Yinhu are hosting a Cal that started on May 5th. I'm not sure how long it goes on for. I'm sure they're being generous with the time though. And they are knitting the Iris, which is a shrug pattern by Bee Mandarins, Melody Hoffman. They cast on May 5th. And this is knit using Blacker Samite. And the Woolly Thistle ran a discount for the yarn where you got 10% off. And stocks were running very low, and I don't think Blacker has milled up anymore just yet. It's a beautiful blend of some really nice yarns and silk, a Himsa silk, which is cruelty-free silk, which is really nice. It's kind of a peasant silk, which is really quite nice. And this yarn is at a gauge of between lace weight and fingering, and has a lot of yardage for the skein. So a lot of you are buying that and knitting that, and that's wonderful. So yes, I'm kind of fantasy knitting about joining in with that. Haven't quite made that happen yet, but who knows, I will, maybe. Fantasy knitting, I am still fantasizing about knitting a colourwork vest. And the one that always jumps to mind, there's actually two. One that always jumps to mind is Isolde's Cruden, which is that very bright blue and green one. With pops of yellow through it, really nice. And the other one is, I want to say it's a Susan Crawford pattern, and it's sort of end of war something or other. I need to look it up again. And this is a colourwork vest for a gentleman, and it's really, really nice. You can find it on Ravelry, and I'll follow up with details about that. I want to knit with Einrum again. I really, really love my Einrum sweater. It's the Magnolia Sweater by Camilla Vad. I love it. I really, really love it, and I love the yarn. I think it was a perfect pairing of pattern and yarn, but I think that yarn is going to be good with lots of different pieces, and I think that it's just got that lovely special feel about it while also being woolly. It's really, really good stuff because it's got that strand of silk in it. So yeah, a quick episode this time. What else do I want to tell you? New Hampshire Sheep and Wool is the weekend of May 12th and 13th. So tomorrow is coming up this weekend. And I'm still, at least at the time of recording this, I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if I'm able to go. So I will show up if I'm going. And if I don't, I hope you have a wonderful time. It's always a great show. The weather is usually very good for it. So have a great time. I think there's some really good classes happening. And of course, the vendors are always wonderful. I'm not vending there, and I'm not sure if I can even make it. So I hope you all have a great time if you're going, and make sure you do go if you have an inkling to, because, well, I mean, the food vendors alone are worth going for. I love the food there, and the vendors themselves are always really fun to buy yarn there. And they have the sheepdog trials, and they have the sheep shows, and all my favourite people will be there. So moving on, I have a little bit of audio for you. This is from Fair Isle. My mum is up there, and she recorded some of the sheepy sounds that are happening right now. They've been lambing, and I think they've finished their lambing now. There's been lots of sleepless nights and up early in the morning to check on the babies. And she has her own wee caddy, which is basically a baby that needs to be bottle fed. So my mum's taking care of her. I think she called her Lily. She gave her a name. And but yeah, enjoy the sounds from Fair Isle. You'll notice there's birds tweeting sometimes, and there's a little bit of wind because they are an island in the middle of the sea. But otherwise, you can imagine a beautiful spring day with the sheep bouncing around and the baby lambs running and playing. So enjoy. So now it's time for the Woolly Thistle update. The Woolly Thistle is doing fantastic as always, and I really, really appreciate you shopping with me and telling your friends about the shop, as well as sharing on Instagram when your order arrives. That's always nice to see the Woolly Thistle tagged in your photos. This all helps me immensely to get the word out and helps me continue to grow the yarn offerings. Whenever you make an order, the money goes in a pot and it's ready to make the next purchase of something new for the shop or replenishing stocks. And that's what it's all about, is bringing you the best yarns that I can find. New items that are finding their home at the Woolly Thistle. Well, you know, I've been going on about John Arbon coming soon, and it's just a huge undertaking to get all of that put in the shop. I have to get my photos. Well, you have to take the photos, you have to resize the photos, you have to rename the photos, you have to upload the photos, and blah, 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 blah. So there's all of that to do, and it is done. And I am planning to launch the John Arbon Knit by Numbers on Saturday, May 12th, which happens to be tomorrow. So keep an eye out on Instagram. If there's any changes, I'll post that there. But at the time of recording this, Saturday, May 12th is when I'm going to launch the John Arbon Knit by Numbers. There's 103 shades available, and I have all of them. And that is basically broken down by 17 distinct colours and then 6 shades of those colours within each of the 17 colours. So you can do gradient work, you can choose different colours and do all the 4th shade of those different colours, and they'll all talk to each other really nicely. Or you can pick colours 1, 3 and 5 to have a more obvious gradient but still the same colour family. You can knit whole pieces in one colour. So there's a lot of potential here, and I started selling colour cards for that a wee while ago so that you could start your planning. And if you bought a colour card, you would have paid shipping when purchasing that, but just let me know when you place your John Arbon order that you ordered a colour card from me, and I will refund you the shipping of that colour card when you place your first order. And I'm very happy to do that. So let me tell you a bit about the yarn. It's 100% organic merino, raised in the Falkland Islands, which is a British set of islands down at the very tip of South America. And it's beautiful stuff. It's really, really nice. It's worsted spun by John Arbon, who is located in Devon in England. And I've had John Arbon's Exmoor sock here before. He also has Devonia, which is a beautiful Devon blend of yarn, blend of wools that he has come out with, and I will be getting that soon too. As soon as he opens that up to wholesale, I'll be on that list. But Knit by Numbers is non-superwash yarn, so you do have to wash it by hand, but it hasn't been treated with all those nasty chemicals. It's bouncy and it's soft and it's squishable, but I think being worsted spun is going to have a wee bit more drape than a woolen spun yarn would have. Like I said, there's 103 shades, so that's 17 colours with 6 shades within each colour, plus a cream, and you can use that to help do some colour work too if you want. So I'm very excited about this. I've invested a lot in it. I basically put the obligation of choosing your colours onto you, dear customers, because I couldn't. I couldn't pick what to pick, so I saved my pennies and I got everything, and so it's coming. Now what I should tell you is that because this is such a large range of colours, John Arbon doesn't keep this. I'm not able to order top-ups of it because they do big runs of it, and that's why I was waiting so long for it, because it had to be milled, dyed and boxed up and sent to me in several batches because it's so big. So they're not able to do this to order. This happens only a couple of times a year. So I would recommend that if you're going to do a project using John Arbon, that you buy enough yarn for your project. Don't play yarn chicken, because I don't know when I'll get it in again, and I'm not going to be able to just top up a colour here or a colour there. We're going to have to do the whole thing again. So that's the status of that, at least as I understand it. In the shop right now, just went in, is Faithmead of Wales, and I've had Faithmead here a couple of times before. Faithmead is a lovely wee farm in Wales, and Mandy is the owner, and she and her husband are retired and trying to live a self-sustainable life of farming, and they have some pigs and goats and sheep, and they raise some beautiful fibre sheep. And this time I was lucky enough to get more of her Leicester long wool from her lambing clip. So that's lovely and soft and glossy, nice long staple yarn. Her BFL is absolutely lovely. It's very squishy and soft, and it's one that when you reach out and touch it, you know that's the BFL. Really lovely. And then for the first time, I've got my hands on some Teeswater from her. And that again is a long staple yarn, so it's got drape. And those three, the Teeswater, the BFL, and the Leicester Longwool, are all cream. And then the fourth one is a lovely light chocolate brown Corriedale from Casper the Corriedale. And that yarn is definitely more rustic feeling than the other three, but it's also got a nice bounce to it. And I think that if you're at all intrigued by breed specific yarn, that Faithmead is always good yarn to invest in. And so I have those 4 for you now in the shop. Fenella is in. This is Susan Crawford's beautiful yarn that is made specifically for her vintage knits, which you can find in the Vintage Shetland Project book. I have all the colours. I'm still waiting for the last 4 that are getting milled up. But other than those 4, which I will get, everything is in, and feel free to have a good look at that. It's really nice yarn too, and that is all British, and it's actually a very small footprint. It's grown and spun and processed all within a very small radius of Susan's farm. So much so that she actually receives the yarn back from the mill on cones, and she does all the skeins herself with her small team at her farm and puts the labels on, and she has a lovely label on there. So yeah, I think it's really good stuff. And I do have Excelana coming too at some point as well, which is her other yarn. West Yorkshire Spinners Floral Collection, Country Bird, Spice Rack, Sweet Shop, Cocktails and Croft are all fully stocked again. I'd really let that dwindle down, and it is all back in. And I know there's a huge movement right now to not want superwash yarn, and I'm on board with that. I get it. But I have to admit, just between you and me, that I do like superwash for my socks. You know, I'm being practical. I'm a mum and I don't have time to wash my socks always by hand, and I do like to just chuck them in. Actually, my method of laundry, so you know, and maybe you do it this way too, is I have a separate hamper that all my socks and knitwear goes in that I want to wash. And then when I'm doing a more delicate style wash in the washing machine, I will dig out all my socks. All my socks are superwash currently, and I've had them for years and they're doing great. So they go in the washing machine with that gentle wash, which is not usually a gentle wash, it's a regular wash, but it just doesn't have clothes in it like jeans or stuff like that, or you know, it doesn't have towels and things. It's just a lighter wash than that. And then I know they're in that wash, and I count how many pairs go in and I count how many pairs come out, and I hang them over the drying rack to dry, and that is how I wash my socks. So all that to say that West Yorkshire Spinners has nylon in there, and also you can wash them in the washing machine. You know, and if you're buying yarn for garments or accessories or whatever, you know, I mean, we all can make our choices. I don't feel too bad about knitting socks that are superwash, because everything else I do is much more kinder to the earth in terms of my knitting. I knit with more natural yarns for bigger projects. So I let myself off with the socks, and, you know, I don't think I have a superwash garment. But, you know, each to our own, right? You make your own choices about that. Okay, so let's talk about what's in stock right now. Einrum is doing well. I'm starting to see sales happening on that, so I'm excited about that, and I would love to hear what you think of that yarn once you get knitting with it. Erika Knight 100 Blue, I'm so in love with that BFL. It's just a British, soft, plump BFL, and I want it to do well because it's really deserving of any recognition it gets. Tuku wool is in good supply right now, and I do know that there is a pattern coming out in line 5 made in Tuku sock. Now I'm going by memory and I'm starting something by saying that. I think it's Tuku sock though. Yes, and line 5 or Lina 5 is in pre-sale or pre-order mode. Thank you if you're ordering that. We will get them out to you as soon as they get here, and we're expecting that to be a couple of days before the release date of May 25. So not too long away. And Rauma, we have in good supply as well. Plenty of that available for your knitting. What else? I think that'll do it. You know what's in the shop. But let me talk about the Vintage Shetland project. There is a pre-order still open. I hope there's still a few copies left if you're interested. I've been doing a pre-order for a big batch that's coming over on the boat. And its arrival date did get pushed back a wee bit, beyond my control, unfortunately. But we're expecting that to be here with me on May 23rd. And as soon as they get here, we will be shipping them up. We have your orders ready already. So if you've pre-ordered your book and maybe some yarn, the yarn is in its box waiting to have the book put in, and then it all will be sent out to you. So we have a good system down. We've done this a few times now with different pre-orders, and we know what we're doing, which is really good. And if you have a local yarn shop that you think should stock the Vintage Shetland project by Susan Crawford, send me an email and I will reach out to them, because I am wholesaling this book to retailers, and I would like to see the book spread far and wide across this massive, wonderful country of wonderful knitters. I actually heard from a customer today who received their book. He is a master knitter, and he said that this is definitely one of the best knitting books, and probably the best book on Shetland knitting ever. Which is high praise to Susan indeed. So, it's an investment. It's not a cheap book, but you're getting 8 years of work and love and sweat and tears and toil in that book, and it's absolutely amazing, full of great photos, pictures, history, stories, wonderful designs, and many of the designs use Jameson and Smith as well. So there's lots to knit in there, as well as just curl up with and read. So yeah, if you have a local yarn store and you want them to sell it, just shoot me an email and let me know who they are, and I will reach out to them. Just into the shop right now, a week or two ago now, is The West Highland Way by Kate Davis, and that includes essays about this particular area of Scotland, which is a very famous walk in Scotland that goes for miles, and it's beautiful. And so she has 13 patterns in the book with names such as Strathendrick, Stronachlacher and Highland Rogue, which I can just about say. Beautiful book. Kate always does such a good job with her books, and it's a great one to add to your library. I still have a few making in stock, and I've got a full page ad in there for the first time, so that's there. And then Amarisu may be in the shop by the time this comes out to you, and I'm really excited about this issue because it's featuring New England, so I want to see what they have to say about that. A Year of Techniques sold out, but I'm sure I'll be getting more of those to come. And I think that's it. I think that's all I want to tell you for the shop, but do visit the shop often. There's always new stuff coming in and things to catch your eye. I'm actually waiting for more tote bags to come from the printer who does them right here in New Hampshire. They're called Enviro Tote, and I like to support them because they do a great job with my bags. I have a new bag design coming, so I'm excited to see that when it's finished, and that should be with us soon. So I think that's everything for now. So other than that, I think if you go out, take your knitting, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to New Hampshire Knits. You can find the Ravelry group at NH Knits. You can find me on Ravelry as NHK Claire, on Instagram NH_knits, and you can email me at nhknits001@gmail.com. And you can find the Woolly Thistle all over the internet at the Woolly Thistle with 2 L's in Woolly.